You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And... Okay, we don't have time for that. We don't have time for that, Keith. You know why? Because we've got our special guest for this week, Mr. Introduce yourself.
Jacob Burris.
There he is. Beautiful. He is back. He's joining us this week.
I didn't hear Sean very well.
I know.
Yeah.
Look, he's...
I'm not on.
There he is.
There he is.
I told Jacob just before this episode
Brandon
we were doing
messed
the mic
everything
check.
up.
I got to get a new soundboard.
Yeah.
Is it working now?
This sound,
Okay.
yeah,
I
this
hear you now.
soundboard is
Yeah, I hear you.
it's flaking. Guys.
It's always Sean though.
No, but it's either
He's
or.
got me plugged into.
I don't
the
know.
bathroom.
I've never cut out like
No,
that.
you have it. It's between me, my input and Sean's input are flaking.
I don't remember
There's
Brandon
shorts in
ever
it.
cutting out either. I think he's just trying to make excuses to make it sound like he's not singling you
He's-
out.
I'm telling you.
He's-
You all always
Sean,
think.
he's trying to get you off the show. Is what's
I
going
know.
on.
He's been doing that for years.
I'm
Doesn't
telling
work.
you. Y'all think I have some mad evil scheme,
Mad Evil.
and one day I will
All he's
rule
got
the
to do
world.
is all he's got to do is ask.
No, that seat is yours.
I'm just saying.
You are forever endowed the normal new host. I hope you know that.
Endowed, I am.
Oh,
I've
Mr.
seen
Burris, thank you for joining us this week.
Thank you for the invite.
I have not.
I love the
I
fact
don't
that
want Amelia to get worried. I have not.
She's not worried.
she knows.
She already knows.
She
She
would
knows.
be worried.
She knows. She's like, I bet y'all have.
Like, yeah, and never mind.
Where are we going?
I want to say that Red Moon has grown so much that we now have two versions of shirts. We've got our new ones.
Well, that's the original shirt.
And this is the
Look at
traditional
that.
original. Look
That
at
was
that.
was the original.
Just beautiful.
OG. Jacob rocking the
Love
OG.
it.
Yeah.
It's something just simple. It is moon and it is red.
With that sexy
Red moon.
beard.
It's also the only swag I've gotten, so.
Hey,
Well,
well,
the swag we've got.
True. These were pressed on shirts, very kindly done by my mother.
His mother.
Testing out a piece of equipment at her work just before she retired. So, it was like, hey, let me make these shirts and
There we
I'm
go.
out of here.
Yeah.
We got a great
use your
show.
stuff before I leave. Bye.
That's it. Everybody does that. Come on.
Well, I do.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
You use your work related things for your
I
own
usually
pleasure.
take things with me.
Oh, you-
My
oh,
bad. That was my bad.
Just don't
like-
tell anybody.
I like that clink though, because that
You
means
like that? That sounded.
we're drinking a nice
just
beer that you
shatters.
picked up just before the show.
A nice Rheingeist.
It's very good.
Zango. It is good.
What
I
is
like it.
Zango what?
Zango Crush.
It's very good.
It's very light and fruity, which
It's-
I know
it's-
some people don't like. It, but
I
like it.
don't typically go
depends
for the
on 'em.
fruity.
It depends on what they are.
I far prefer the fruity to the sour.
Oh, really?
And I like this one just because it's got a citrus note
Yeah.
and it's very crisp.
It's
I
not.
like
it's
that.
not. Yeah.
That's
It's
very
crisp. It's not the sour.
you said
though,
it.
yeah.
You said it was champagne, like kind
Kind of champagne.
It
like,
is, yeah.
but it's good for a hot. As
No,
hot
that's
as it is
Miller
outside
High
today,
Life, the
we have a-
champagne of beers.
No. It's a 110 heat index today in Louisville, Kentucky. So it was a hot one.
Yeah.
It was.
So this is a nice, refreshing type of beer to have on a day like
It is.
this.
It's a
So-
good crisp beer is perfect on a hot day. Now we got a great show. We all took a dip in Keith's pool just before the show.
We
well,
did.
Jacob wasn't able
He
to
didn't.
join. That's
You
unfortunate.
didn't want to get
sad.
that beard wet.
He's also here this week
Actually,
simply because your
I wanna
wife is
see
out of
that
town.
beard
right?
wet. It'd be glorious.
We could
I
do that.
I imagine. Now he's got to be coming out of like a body of water, and it's just the water
Slow
just
motion.
dripping down.
Looks like
off
some
of
sort
it.
of
Like
Jason Momoa.
Phoebe Cates in
Yes.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High when she
There
comes
you-
out of that.
There,
Yes.
yes, there it is.
But it's Jacob.
That'd be amazing. Yes.
He's like a Greek god rising
Yes.
out of the water.
Judge
Yes.
Reinhold is jacking off to it in the bathroom. Sorry.
Judge
I mean, if you're going
Reinhold.
to talk about that
Nice.
scene, you have to actually say what was
You
going
have
on in the
to.
background. He's watching her out the window and slapping it. It's terrible.
Uh,
Great movie, though.
But there's another movie that's on the block right now that isn't so great.
It would be better if somebody was slapping it in the movie.
To Laura Dern.
I ain't gonna lie.
Stop.
I leaned over to Sean in the middle of this movie. I said, I'd still go after it.
I would.
No.
But Sam Neill has to be there too. He has to watch.
I'd rather have Jeff Goldblum.
No. See, Sam Neill has to watch. Jeff Goldblum gets to actually contribute.
No. I want him watching like he is sprawled out in the first Jurassic Park. Yeah, the meme.
Now he's got to be on the bed doing that.
Yeah.
Or maybe.
And they even mocked that in this movie with him buttoning up the shirt.
Yeah. Or I actually would prefer it if it was the fly version of Jeff Goldblum watching you poop.
Just sitting there like twitching and
eating his fingernails off.
Oh.
Gosh, his teeth are falling
This
out.
is gross. All right, we got.
If you haven't guessed by now, speaking of Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum, we're reviewing the new Jurassic World film.
But that whole conversation that you thought was just garbage and trash, well, that sums up what this film was.
No, that conversation we just had was more entertaining.
Yeah.
True.
Let's keep that going.
Yeah. So here is our review of none other than Jurassic World Dominion.
In 1993, Steven Spielberg gave us a massive blockbuster with intelligent themes, endearing characters, and smart writing. Jurassic Park is still regarded to this day the pinnacle of the franchise and the best movie ever made to feature dinosaurs. From there, the franchise has floundered ever since. With both The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 failing to impress audiences and critics, the series lay dormant until Colin Trevorrow resurrected it, much like the scientist who resurrected the dinosaurs in film. This is the perfect opportunity to paraphrase the line I often quote from Jeff Goldblum. As Trevorrow was so busy wondering whether or not he could, he never stopped to think whether or not he should. Jurassic World was released to mostly positive reviews, and most audience members had fun with the film. It was definitely flawed, but was a decent start to a new series obviously focused more on action than the suspense and tension of the original Jurassic Park. And just as greed pushed those in the series to make one poor decision after another, Universal and Trevorrow proceeded to take an already lackluster series and turn it into something truly horrifying. Returning to direct the final installment after stepping back from Fallen Kingdom, Trevorrow, who has written and produced all 3 Jurassic World movies, having directed the first and now the final film, Jurassic World Dominion promised to be an epic conclusion to the Jurassic Park franchise. Seeing the return of not just Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, who have starred in all 3 Jurassic World films, but also the return of all 3 original leads from Jurassic Park, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum. With dinosaurs now free on the mainland, humanity must now find a way to coexist with these creatures or face extinction. The premise is a bit goofy, and Fallen Kingdom attempted to set the stage by driving straight through it with a bulldozer, but I'll admit I was intrigued by the idea of how does humanity deal with being forced to coexist with creatures that went extinct millions of years ago. Luckily for me, I get to continue being intrigued by the idea because it's not one the film decides to focus on, despite that being one of its selling points. Instead of humanity being on the verge of extinction due to dinosaurs, we now face extinction thanks to another evil genetic engineering company's decision to recreate prehistoric locusts. Yes, we came to see dinosaurs, instead we get locusts. But it's not all as random as you think, because this evil corporation actually has ties to the first movie, ran by none other than Dotson. That's right, they've got Dotson here! Which leads me to my next gripe. Jurassic World Dominion leans heavily on nostalgia. This isn't a new trend. We've seen this already with films like Ghostbusters Afterlife, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Top Gun Maverick. While some are hit or miss and others are brilliant, i.e. Top Gun Maverick, Dominion has probably the worst attempts at Easter eggs and nostalgia I've ever seen, with scenes and plot points serving no purpose whatsoever outside of being callbacks to the original, to the point that the callbacks don't even make sense. Even bringing back the original cast is never justified in the film, other than Universal knew Fallen Kingdom was a bust and they could get more butts and seats if they brought back Neill, Dern, and Goldblum. But it's not just the callbacks and the plot surrounding the original cast that feels unnecessary. The entire plot surrounding Dotson and the Locust, A baby velociraptor and the character of Maisie Lockwood all feel unneeded. Again, Trevorrow had the perfect premise already: the extinction of mankind due to cohabiting with dinosaurs. And it's the one plot point completely forgotten. Everything that made the original Jurassic Park so great is missing here. The old guard has become caricatures of themselves, and the new guard are laughable with no relatable qualities. The plot is wildly all over the place, and Trevorrow's script comes off as thinking itself way more clever than it really is. The original had deep themes, such as the consequences of playing God and quote-unquote life finds a way, with endearing characters. Jurassic World has nonsense, systemic corruption, with characters that don't matter. It's truly as if they researched everything that made the original great and decided to do the exact opposite. I give Jurassic World Dominion a total bomb.
There it is, guys. Yes. Jurassic World
The harmonica.
Dominion.
That was the one with the turtle.
The turtle.
There we have it, guys.
Nice.
This is our first on the Red Moon podcast here. We have reviewed other movies that have gotten a total bomb.
I think just the one, yeah.
Just Batman v Superman is the only other one. But our review simply was, don't go see it.
Okay, here's the thing. Batman v Superman was better than this movie.
I would agree.
I would agree.
I would completely agree. But this one is the first review we've done live on air that has received a complete
I had to think about it for
bomb.
a while, because I gave Fallen Kingdom 1 star, and I was like, man, this is way worse than Fallen Kingdom. And then I was thinking about other movies I've given low scores, like Jupiter Ascending, A Wrinkle in Time, just several ones. And I was sitting here and I'm like, actually, yeah, this is worse than all of those. So
sad,
I
but
just
true.
went for it. I was like, because at least some of those other movies, like Jupiter Ascending's not as bad as I think. I mean, I think we bash it for.
It's bad.
It's bad. But no, I think it's become more fun to like. Grant, I think maybe 2 stars for that one, but. It was cohesive. Even A Wrinkle in Time, which I hated, had a cohesive story. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, none of this matters. None of the plot in this movie really mattered. They had a perfect setup from Fallen Kingdom into this one where, okay, dinosaurs are now loose, and how do we deal with that? We don't, apparently, because we have to deal with the locust. So I didn't know where he was going with this.
I don't either.
The clone plot line with Lockwood or whatever, that was dumb in Fallen Kingdom, and they just extrapolated upon it in this. And I don't know. I couldn't. The whole movie, I was just sitting here thinking, why?
Yep. Yeah. No. I completely agree. It's like for the entirety of the film, it's like from the opening, it just goes down this road of absurdity in terms of trying to take you on this. There are so many plot points that are not only forged throughout this film that are completely meaningless, but like you said, this is the first time they're picking the third film in this trilogy to spring a lot of these plot points forward instead of wrapping up, just focusing on what they've already introduced.
Yeah.
And let alone that, it's like they do a terrible, miserable job at doing so. And then the other funny thing is they also bring in the old traditional characters, and they don't do them any justice.
Nope.
They simply, from what I can tell, I rewatched Jurassic Park when I came home. I was like, I gotta watch
the original
something
is amazing
to get the bad taste out of my mouth.
It's like the only good one in the whole series.
Oh, it is. and that's what I found so funny about this was I saw what they were trying to do, and it literally is just blatant, bashing you over the head with nostalgia in the most lazy, in the laziest way possible, as well as missing the mark every time they do it. And also, again, any one of the plot points they focus on, they could have made an entire movie out of that and made the whole beginning scenario of, Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt's character with this girl, this clone out in the seclusion. I know that it's already the fact that you're saying a clone in Jurassic Park.
That's the thing. The original paid so much attention to detail and making it feel believable that they could resurrect these dinosaurs based on like the fossilized DNA and completing the DNA chain with the amphibian like DNA. And you go from that, which has care to make it seem plausible that they could do this, to clone little girls and locust, and I'm like, how did we get to something that is impossible but seemed plausible to this complete ridiculousness?
And the last film wasn't even so much about cloning the person as it was creating a completely new dinosaur.
and
that,
apex
I
predator.
Thought that, I just thought that was ridiculous, and they didn't even carry on with that in this one.
No,
there
this
wasn't
one-
any newly created species in this
No,
one.
no.
But the dinosaurs were the backdrop to the.
No, in this one they needed the
locusts.
clone girl so they could make a locust COVID to wipe them out.
True. Yeah.
But even then, I'm like, that whole story that they set up and they try to build this relational, this relationship between those three characters early on, and I'm like, okay, is this going to be the central focus of the movie? No, just enough to like dip your toe in it and then drive another plot point that she's of course the agency's after her and this biosynth is after her and they need to take her for her blood and blah.
That biosyn seed.
Yeah, of course.
Biosyn seed.
Every time I heard that, I was like, this sounds awful. Could you please stop biosyn seed?
It straight up reminded me of exactly how Resident Evil games are.
Yes.
It's like they start out okay and somewhat like this is
They
actually
get over the top,
and
but-
then they just go
But that's
ridiculously
kind
off
of
the
part
wall.
of Resident Evil's charm is that campy nature. Jurassic Park's not supposed to be that.
Right.
Like, so it's just weird. It's like, no, this is not good.
Right. And I think I mentioned this to you earlier. It's like they literally they tried to do exactly what they did with Rise of Skywalker in trying to retcon certain things or at least bring a nice conclusion to this trilogy. No, they did a disastrous job in terms of at all trying to cohesively tie the story up. It was just and I was bored through half of it. I was honestly just so many moments bored.
And they bring back the original character of Dotson, but it's not the same actor. They got Tim Cook to play him. So no, it's not Tim Cook, but the guy does look like.
Oh, they totally.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was just funny.
Sean, what else did you think about the film?
I mean, I agree with the review, although I did give it 1 star because Chris Pratt was in it, and that was literally the only thing that gave it any merit,
Any redemption.
and he wasn't good. Like I'm gonna have to talk to him. But I mean, it was pretty pathetic. I was bored through the whole thing. I kept looking at you said something to me about it once. You were like, I looked at my watch and you were like, dude, it's got 35 minutes left. I was like, where are they going with this? I don't know how they're gonna wrap this up. But I found myself paying more attention to my watch than I did to the movie.
Yep.
But it was just terrible. I really feel bad for Sam Neill and Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum because they really brought them back into this movie, like you said, to fill some seats, and they had very little and poor screen time. Yep. And the moment where both groups finally come together, I thought was going to be like this great moment where you've got it was terrible, and they battle for who's going to say don't move.
Oh, it was awful.
And it
the
was
way it
so
was
poorly
choreographed.
timed.
Yeah.
It was really bad. It was just like, what? Like
I was like, either Sam Neill is senile, which I know he's not. It's just poorly directed. That's what Colin Trevorrow all over.
Yeah.
This whole movie.
No,
has
I mean, even
just
when
poor
him and
directing all
Statler
over.
meet each other again, when she walks in and he's like, Ellie Statler, and she turns around and she's like, Alan Grant.
I know.
Like, we know their names.
Yeah.
Like,
if
come
you're
on.
a fan of this series, you know who they are. Why do you need to repeat their names?
See, and I know you're all about Chris Pratt, but see, I'm into older men, so I was excited about Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum.
Neill, yeah.
I was like, man, this is great
Well,
that they're going to be
And
back.
but
and
I
they
mean,
were terrible.
They did that.
Like,
The nostalgia things were so forced, like you said. They even with Jeff Goldblum's character, like when they introduce him, they're like, "Oh, he's the world's most forefront chaotician," or whatever. And I'm like, we know that's what he does. That we know that's his profession.
Well, and the only
it's like,
time that we see him even portray that side of himself
Yes.
is at the very introduction when he's teaching a class.
Yes.
And then from the moment on, he becomes the butt of the joke.
Yep.
He becomes I've got to have a humorous line here or there.
He was the Tyrese Gibson of the movie.
Yeah.
He had a dog that humped his leg so much he had a callus on his shin bone. Just saying.
That is
Best
an
line of
actual
the movie.
line.
That's in the movie.
Best line in the movie.
All right, let's turn to our guest over here, Mr. Burris. Yeah, I know you do a diligent, fantastic job of taking notes
I try
and critiquing things.
Did you take those during the movie?
I did not.
Okay.
It was
An afterthought.
an afterthought, a moment of disconnection, and ponderance. I was torn between 1 to 1.5. Not so much. I saw the original not Star Wars, Jurassic Park, classic, wonderful movie, and then I think I saw the second one, and then I saw the first movie of the reboot. I didn't see the last one, so
You didn't need to.
yeah.
I think it was the day right before, or the day we were going to see this. Jacob was looking for Fallen Kingdom. He's like, I can't find it anywhere. I got to rent it, and I was like, you'd be better off not renting it. Don't even pay for that.
The only plot point from it you need to know is that the dinosaurs got loose and now they're on the mainland and there's a little clone girl.
Okay,
Which is
well,
funny
I
because
see
that plot point, as you saw in this movie, doesn't even really.
Yeah.
And they
doesn't
don't even
matter.
explain it all because then they talk about now they've spread across the globe, but it's like how'd they move from continent to continent? I can understand the ones that swim and fly, but how did the land ones get from
the T-Rex swam on the back of the Mosasaurus.
That's right.
That's it.
To get to Europe.
I mean, I know they said there was like an illegal trade breeding going on and stuff, so maybe that explains some of how they got across continents, but I don't. It was all just
we
very.
know that there's the ships aren't even moving. They're sitting in California in the bay. They're not going to Europe shipping dinosaurs.
I just
off.
thought it was ridiculous. There's one scene of like the CIA and the guy sitting there watching this monitor. It's just new report, and these people are being attacked on the beach. And I was like, first of all, I don't think the CIA is just watching monitors that pop up new report. And secondly, why are they just sitting there watching people get attacked? Like, why isn't the government doing something about it?
Well, because in that world, in Jurassic World, like people getting eaten by dinosaurs is as frequent as people getting shot in Chicago. So they were like, oh, it's nothing. Another shooting. Another T-Rex ate a guy on the subway.
Just, literally by the end of I don't want to spoil anything.
DLM.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob,
please go ahead.
We derailed that.
No, it's all good. So I mean, like I thought, not in terms of the content, but just the general output. I thought the pacing was nice, just in the fact that like it attempted to move it along. Now, how they did it and did it well is a different topic of badness or whatever. But I think there was an attempt, like that Malta scene or whatever. I thought that was decent. Not bad.
It was
good
007,
action.
yeah.
It was about the only action scene in the film that I would agree deserved any kind of credit.
Yeah.
It actually looked like they planned something out.
Yeah,
but I would agree.
But I think like the end of that, like there was no conclusion. I was talking to Brandon on the way after the movie. I said, what happened to that lady?
Yeah,
and
she
that
just
guy,
disappears.
Like,
Well, some of the poachers they show get killed by the raptors, but she just disappears. And I think, you're right. The head guy, I don't remember what happened to him. So,
But a new head guy shows up towards the end.
Yeah.
A new
Randomly.
head security guy just pops up out of nowhere.
It's like he pops out of nowhere, and then he's all in black, and it's like, oh, he must be the real baddie.
He must be the-
okay, I get it.
No,
All right.
Dotson was the real baddie.
Well,
Nobody cares.
no, Dotson was. See, that was good.
That was.
You're good, Joe. You're
good.
good. I'm sorry. Continue, Jacob.
Oh no, it's all good. So I mean, like I thought, they attempted to move you along. I thought the execution was poorly done. For me, the only redemptive quality, and I understand after 25, 30 years now, the original cast coming back obviously was as Sean said, get people in the seats. It got me there. That it didn't keep me there per se, but they attempted it. But I don't know if it's just coming back to something 30 years later. Is it some sort of idea like they, I can't say they forgot how to play the character, but like
Right.
Is it it's just too distant to come back to. And I think Jeff Goldblum is a wonderful parody of himself, but he plays it so well in life. I feel like if he had attempted that in the movie, he would have like smashed it again like he did in the original.
Well, he was definitely still entertaining. I think.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
But I think like you said, they tried like, oh, he needs a line in this scene. You got to
Yes.
throw him something here because that's Jeff Goldblum. It's what
They tried too hard to again, make him. I thought they did that with all the three originals. They tried to make them caricatures, and I just felt like even the forced and minor spoiler alert. I don't want to get too many people's hopes up. That's a terrible movie. But Sam Neill and Laura Dern's character, in terms of their reconnection, and it just seems forced.
It is.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, they obviously very much wanted to give everybody a happy ending at the end of this film and try to wrap this up with some kind of cohesion.
Too happy.
And yes,
was
it
gonna
was
say,
like there was nothing tragic.
There is no tension. I actually said that to Brandon when I recorded the review. It's like I thought it was insane. Like the original Jurassic Park doesn't have a huge body count, but every death had an impact, and you actually knew the characters that died. Like they all had parts of the story that they played a role in.
Yeah.
In this movie, nobody of consequence dies. Like literally everybody who dies are the bad poachers and then the random people running in the streets for their lives.
Yep.
Every named character that has an important role to play in this movie and this is spoiler, sorry, but I mean, yeah, they come out scot clean, and I'm just like,
there's no tension.
I'm okay.
And it's like even the tension between Ellie and Dr. Grant it's like completely eliminated by this stupid storyline of them. It's like, okay, so in the first movie, one of the reasons they obviously didn't work out was because he didn't want kids, which by the end of the first movie, they hint at the fact that, well, maybe now he would want kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Then they go on. He never got married, never had kids.
Yeah,
she got married, she had
third,
kids.
yeah.
So it's like they both got what they want. Now they're too old to have kids, so he can have her, and she got her kids. It's like, whoa. It's like Top Gun Maverick. There's 2 consecutive miracles that have to happen here for this to work, and they both happen.
Top Gun Maverick was good, though.
Right. And Top Gun Maverick is counter to what Jacob was saying, where you have Tom Cruise that stepped back into a 40-year-old role.
Yeah.
Where he actually plays Maverick again, but 30-something years later.
It feels like the character has progressed 30 years.
They did not feel like Dr. Grant and Ellen Statler.
No, they
just
didn't.
got older.
Yeah. And and I know, granted, I like Jacob said, I agree it is very hard, I would say, to come back 30, 40 years later and redo something. But it can be done because Top Gun Maverick did it brilliantly.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, I won't say was the best, but a lot of its nostalgia moments were nailed perfectly.
But I think a lot of the problem with this film, too, is that it was set up from the start.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jurassic World, and again, it progressively got worse, but I think, honestly, especially after... There was a little bit of hope after the first movie because you could be like, okay, maybe this was just a rough start.
Okay. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't
as soon
that
as
great.
Fallen Kingdom came out,
Oh, God,
it was like
awful.
I think you were way off course. There was no way to course correct.
The Indoraptor.
And this one, we all knew. We all knew going into it, just seeing slapping the old faces on there and them trying to yank at your tug at your heartstrings for the Jurassic Park that you remember as a kid. And it's like, and again, it's this ridiculous nature of this epic conclusion that has to somehow happen in order to make it somehow meaningful. And I'm like, the great thing about Jurassic Park is, it's epic in scope for the time it was made, but it's like it all is insular. It takes place on this island. All the people, because there's a hurricane coming in, have to leave on a boat. So it's literally like these, half a dozen people
They're just
that are
stranded,
stranded there without power with these dinosaurs
survive,
loose.
yeah.
I mean, that's a freaking terrifying, enough of an instance to give you some great suspense and heart-pounding action. And it's like, this film just went it jumped the shark, it nuked the fridge, it did everything it could to just completely destroy any kind of legacy there is. I mean, this literally cemented the fact that Jurassic Park is the only film you should pay attention to in the series. Yeah. None of the others matter.
But my thing with it, and it's kind of piggybacking off your point, and this expands beyond the Jurassic double trilogies or whatever, is any film series that goes, I think, beyond, I'll give them 2 for sure, 3 if they're lucky. Fast and Furious, it's just fast cars and some sort of drug money thing or something.
Eventually space.
Not anymore. Now it's espionage and global
and they're also invincible.
Well, you got to spice it up somehow, I guess.
Exactly.
But and this is dinosaurs, people on the run. They're trying to contain something that is uncontainable. All these like film franchises. It's like it was good at first. There's a drop, in such things as like after the first trilogy, if you will, and then it's like it just tanks and nosedives, and I'm like, I understand people will still come back for Fast and the Furious. They'll come back for Star Wars.
I mean, look at how many Transformers people went to.
I was getting ready to say Transformers.
Awful.
Transformers.
I think there was like
That's
8
another
of those.
huge franchise that just flopped.
All these. I'm not a big
Transformers.
1, 2, and 3, then Dark of the Moon, then something Night,
and that's the
Last
last
Night.
and then Bumblebee. That one
So
doesn't count.
6.
Bumblebee was
actually
good.
I guess it's part of the franchise, but it's definitely a reboot.
Yeah, it's not.
It's a
Michael
soft
Bay's Transformers.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
But anyway, continue.
No, you're good. So my thing is like, you have this good initial like story development and some sort of content, and then I feel like I don't know if it's just watered down to then stretch it out for 10 movies or God forbid, now everything's put into a series, in addition to the movies and whatnot.
Yep.
So it's like, do they just muddle it down to where it's just trash? Is it the people behind it and like, as you said earlier, like Trevorrow, just bad directing that just ruined it or tanked it in many ways. So I'm just like, let it die. It had its moment. 1993 was wonderful for Jurassic Park.
Yes.
We love it. We keep it 1977, Star Wars, all these different cultural points. Keep it there.
Yep.
We come back to it and, nostalgia, love, it's a cultural moment. Or, give it 50 years and redo it.
Well,
that's
I was
fine.
going to say, I think, and I don't, we beat this point over the head every time we bring it up, but it's like Lord of the Rings is, to me, a once-in-a-generation movie.
Yeah.
It's like you don't remake Ben-Hur. We saw what happens when they tried to do that.
Yeah.
It's terrible. You don't remake Gone with the Wind. There's certain notable classics you do not touch.
Well, it's just there's no point to.
Right.
How can you do it better? I mean,
and that's the thing. I think it's like, especially it becomes even more so when you see a franchise like this that has been done terribly since the original. And it seems like I think they've done a disservice to the source material because they haven't taken them seriously. Yeah. They've taken them as popcorn blockbuster flicks.
Well, that's exactly what
and I think
Trevorrow
that's
did
a problem.
with Jurassic World. Is from the very first one, you could tell this isn't a movie about the suspense and the tension like the original one was. Like the original one, I mean, it's not a horror movie, but there are scary moments. Like there's moments where you're on the edge of your seat because you're you don't know if they're going to survive, if they're going to be able to get past the raptors as they're crawling through the ceiling. I mean, there were genuine moments where you're just oh crap, you don't know. And you don't have that with any of the Jurassic World movies. None of them are you worried that someone's going to die. Most of the time, I didn't care if anybody died.
That's
I didn't care
true
about the people. I was just go ahead, eat them.
Well, it would actually be beneficial, something entertaining. And something we haven't touched on, and probably the last thing we can discuss about Jurassic World that I think is sad because we do take it for granted this day and age, and it's an abomination that it is in this big a budget film.
About the special effects.
Awful special effects and CGI in this, the practical effects were terrible, but even the special effects
they were worse
god-awful.
than the first movie that came out in 1993.
Yes.
Yeah.
The animatronics and CGI in 1993 were better than
dude.
any of the CGI and animatronics in this movie.
They showed the IMAX trailer of the re-release of E.T.
Oh, yes.
And E.T. looked better than
Yes.
the dinosaur.
I would love to see that in theaters because I love E.T. But because they did back then, they used practical and they used CGI to touch up the practical, which is a good way to go. In this, it was they had either full-on animatronics, which looked like animatronics. You could tell they weren't real.
Like Chuck E. Cheese.
Or they had this awful CGI that looked like CGI. I was there was scenes of the raptors that, like you
grainy.
said.
It was like they did everything with this fake film grain to make it all blend better. And it just looked like
but the rest
it just
of the movie
looked
didn't have
terrible.
any
Yeah,
grain.
it looked terrible.
Yeah, it was just a terrible
Every
filter.
scene with the raptors had this terrible, real rough film grain on it, and I'm like, that looks nothing like the scene we just saw.
Well, and the animatronics to me, especially these baby triceratops
yeah.
things, they look like terrible, hard plastic, like
You
a
said
toy
they
I
looked
would
like
get.
the dinosaur show.
Yes, they did. Like
I actually think
I'm
the
a
dinosaur
baby
puppets,
of the family.
Those look better.
Yeah.
But it was. I was shocked to see that a movie of this caliber, this high production value, have that bad a CGI, especially in the type of franchise it is. And it's chalk it up to whether it was COVID or whatever. I mean, it's there's just no excuse.
Yeah.
And they had way too many dinosaurs on screen and way too many epic conclusions. I mean, because that was another thing that I couldn't stand is it was from them getting to point A to point B to point C, they just did these huge they had these moments that were okay, no, this is where the tension's going to happen. This is the set piece. Yeah. But in terms of actually getting from here to there, well, it'll kick off with a set piece, and then magically they just reappear at this next place. And I mean, we're just supposed
that
to.
Was a
we're
big
supposed
problem
to
I had
believe
is everything just worked out. There was never there was never any tension. It was just like when they all end up together, they just all randomly end up in the same spot. I was how'd that happen?
This huge jungle.
Yeah. In the middle of the jungle.
Well, again, with dinosaurs roaming free,
right.
and they're supposed to have traveled 2-3 miles
they just
to meet,
randomly
and not
run
into
each
any kind of dinosaurs at all.
Not only that, it's everything that we think we know about dinosaurs says they lived in a much hotter and more humid climate than we have right now.
They had them in the mountains.
And they had them in the freaking snowy mountains. They would not. You can't leave a freaking lizard in its cage with the air conditioner running without a heat rock and a lamp, or it will die overnight. It is.
I
it's just
remember
common
you
sense.
mentioning that during the trailer, and I was like, surely they're not going to be that ignorant to
Oh,
not
no,
mention
I was-
it at all.
I
in the
was
film.
waiting
80% of the
for them
movie
to say-
was in the snow.
Yeah, I was waiting for them to say, "Oh
The
no, we
Italian
engineered
Alps,
them
yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
We engineered them to be able to survive
Yep.
or something," and they never say anything like that.
Yeah.
Just like,
One final thing I would like to say about the
Sure,
movie
sure.
is, and I think we can segue with this, is if at the very end, everything's spoiler, everything's on fire except all these dinosaurs in this like protective donut hut building structure.
It's the Apple campus.
Yeah, it was very infinity looking.
Yes.
So my thing is they should have just thrown all the film in the dumpster fire and just called it a day and locked the door in
True.
the studio.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. I agree.
We can all coexist without these movies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or again, on the Matt Damon scale, so many people could have been helped.
They could have provided so much
many
water.
They
countries.
could have literally brought dinosaurs back to life with the money that it took to make this movie.
Yep. We could have at least already had one T-Rex bread.
Right.
Yeah.
No doubt. Alrighty, guys. That's it for our Jurassic World Dominion discussion.
It's bad.
0. That's right. For the first time on our live shows, 0 out of 4 stars for Jurassic World Dominion. Do not, unless you're just the least bit skeptical or curious, there's no reason to go see this film.
I mean,
it's atrocious.
I would
hate
watch
yourself,
The
go see
Lost
it.
World and Jurassic Park 3 over and over again before I ever watch this again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Alrighty, guys, we're going to head on now to our headlines, so let's move right into it. I thought you were going to, bust out in that, and, it sounded like that meow mix. Meow, 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 meow. Yeah, I don't remember that, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Yeah. I want to talk about our first headline. I don't think it's the one. Entertained? Always. It was news that dropped last week.
Yeah.
A very hasty exit by a Disney executive.
He was just
fired by Mr. Chapek.
yeah, he was just blindsided apparently.
And so many in the industry
Yeah.
apparently did not see this coming, and also were shocked.
He was with Fox before the merger, and apparently he has a very great portfolio. He's considered highly amongst a lot of people in Hollywood, and Bob Chapek was just like, nah, get out. And
That was it?
Yeah, and that was it. No
His name
real
is,
reason.
Peter Rice.
Yeah.
He was let go last week, and I don't know. Not much has been said. Obviously, when Chapek let him go, he even told Peter Rice that he said, I don't have any more explanation right now other than,
Yeah.
our business is done. There's some speculation. We linked the article below.
I mean,
That-
the only the only explanation he gave, it says, is he said to have cited a poor cultural fit in the brief meeting to terminate Rice. We don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's vague. Yeah.
I know it also mentions that there's some speculation with Peter Rice being such a kind of prolific figure in the industry that people thought Chapek was afraid he was gunning for his job, so he was just getting him out of the way, which is a possibility. We don't know. That's just speculation. I mean, we can't really say that's true. But it is crazy because
Well, it's interesting that
Oh,
Disney
there's-
has been under fire for so many different controversies recently, this being the latest one, but even just before that, the controversy of including the same-sex kiss in Lightyear, which we're going
But
to
they
talk
don't
about here in a
believe
sec.
that was a cause because
but-
he was very much into the social, into the. They
well,
said
right. I'm getting
Rice,
there. I'm getting there. But also the controversy even just before that, I believe was the Doctor Strange, of course, with having a gay protagonist at the beginning or throughout the film, which it's very loosely hinted at. But the other thing is that Rice had already shown through individual posts of his own that he was in stark contrast with the way that Disney handled the issues in Florida with the quote unquote "don't say gay" bill.
Yeah.
I hate calling it that. It's what it is in the headlines, even though the bill has doesn't say the word gay in it.
Yeah.
But that he came out and spoke in defense of the proponents to fight against the bill, and actually was kind of upset and saying that Disney wasn't in the right. That it was that ultimately them fighting for the proponents of going against the bill were in the best interest of human rights.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that, for all of what's going on, I think it's more so suspect because of Peter Rice and the fact that he's one of the newer hires since Chapek came aboard, and they, are trying to usher in, I guess, a new wave of, because this was part of the MGM merger, and he came aboard, or the Fox merger, I'm sorry, and he came aboard at that time and was hired into that role, and so many people praising him for things that he has done. You can look up his portfolio. He has tons of hit movies produced and even, just that he's been a part of in his career. And I'm not going to deny that he's got a varied portfolio. However, I do strongly suspect that just that hint of his support of the proponents against the Don't Say Gay bill leads me to believe that Chapek is trying to rapidly course correct from insider pressure within Hollywood.
Oh, so do you think he's going non-woke? Because I wouldn't believe that of Chapek. Because Rice...
Here's the thing. I think it remains to be seen. Okay. But I think in letting Rice go so defiantly, and I think the real test is going to be coming up with like what we just pointed at, the fact that Lightyear is now banned in 14 countries. And
but they're defending that. They're saying
I know they are.
They're not going to change anything. They said we refuse to change.
I know they're in defense of it.
Because they said...
but here's the thing. Money talks.
Oh, I know.
And at the end of the day, if the U.S. does not show up to support this film, I don't think it's not going to be number one. I don't think Lightyear is going to make buku bucks at the box office. But if it doesn't show near the success of what is traditionally known as a Pixar film... it will be a huge red flag to, I think, Chapek and other Disney executives, whether they want to fight along with this woke crusade or not. The same way that Netflix had to face the music when they launched the Ricky Gervais special and defended Dave Chappelle recently. And the thing is they ultimately had to come out and fight off the woke crowd. And guess what? They staved off the crowd. They beat down the loudmouths.
I agree. I think that... when it comes to losing money, they're definitely going to go wherever the money is. I just didn't think that was why they canned Rice at the moment.
I don't know.
I know. I think it's a little too early for that to be like, okay, well, we're getting rid of all the woke people now because it's costing us. I don't think they're at that point yet. I kind of do believe maybe he felt threatened because Chapek just seems like that kind of D-bag.
Well, he's done it once before, according to the article.
Yeah, because the insider had said, like, this is like the second time, and he said, my theory is Chapek was
actually,
just like...
they pointed to the other 3 times.
Yeah.
With Iger and Eisner.
Yes. Yeah. And they said, this guy's trying to take me out. F him, so he did it first. Now, and again, this is all...
That was a...
No, it was an industry... That's what he says. An industry insider says, my theory is Chapek thought, this guy is trying to take me out. F him.
Yes, but I didn't want people to misconstrue and think that's what Chapek said.
No, I said
think that was verbatim.
I said it was an industry insider before I said that line. Yeah.
I ultimately believe that this, again, I don't know, but that's because it was in a secret meeting, and even Peter...
Yeah, we don't know.
The reason why I'm leaning more towards the covering your, CYA on Chapek's part is because he gave him no reason.
Yeah.
And like they explain also in the article, this is typically done in the industry when you use a high-profile person like this and let them go. It's usually, we're going to let you go with a high-stakes profile production, or this is going to be your swan song, and we're going to let you gracefully... Yeah. The previous person who bowed out just before he did...
They announced their own...
They announced it like 14 months in advance. So the fact that he was just let go out of nowhere, I think, does raise some red flags.
Yeah.
And I'm speculating, obviously.
Well, that's all I'm doing too. The reason, it was so, with it abrupt, is why I was thinking maybe it was a personal thing, because it was no reason given. It was so abrupt, and I'm just like, that's so weird. It's like Chapek didn't actually have a real reason, so he was just like, you gotta get out. You gotta get out.
What about you guys? What do you all think?
I mean, I just agree with some of this article where he says that's bad for the morale.
It is.
Look at what Disney's already been through and what they're going through in their pocketbook right now, because their stock is down, their ticket sales are down, their prices have gone up because ticket sales are down. It's just very, it's a lot on their plate with kind of diving full force into the woke ideology, and I feel like it's coming back to bite them in the butt, like we all kind of figured it would. I think it's happening a lot faster than I thought it would.
Do you think regardless of whether or not it's a course correct of letting Peter Rice go, do you think it was a bad move to do it at this point in time?
Well, yeah, timing-wise, because that's what people are going to think. People are going to speculate like you are. People are going to think, oh, well, this has to do with what's going on at this place and time, when it might not have anything to do with that at all. I mean, we don't know anything at this point. There could have been sexual harassment stuff that'll come out later. There could have been I don't know. But it just forces people to speculate because of what else is going on right now.
Well, it's actually, this has happened before at Disney. When Michael Eisner was in charge, he came in and tried to clear house and was getting rid of anybody who had been with Disney for years, and until Roy E. Disney and some other board members got him out and Bob Iger took over. So it is kind of interesting to see history repeat itself in the sense that now here's Bob Chapek, who's already let go. This is like the third person, and it's like, what's going on? It's almost just like back in the late 90s when you saw Disney kind of crashing before they came back up after the Renaissance. It's almost like a similar trend where it's like, here's somebody who was coming in with all these whatever ideas Chapek had for like we said with Lightyear and all these things that they're doing, and now it's biting them in the butt, and we see kind of chaos going on at Disney. So and it might take someone like Bob Iger to set it back on course again.
See, I don't know if they'll call Bob Iger back.
I meant someone. I don't mean him.
Right, okay, yeah.
But it is because he did oversee a kind of another after Eisner kind of took it down. Bob Iger brought it back up with a lot of the deals.
Well, I did find it interesting that just before COVID, because Bob Iger he had already mentioned he was stepping down, and then COVID hit, and he stayed on as a co-CEO almost throughout the year of 2020 until it fully got handed over to Bob Chapek. And I don't think it's been bad PR since Chapek's been in the chair, but at the same time, I think it's extremely telling too that because of all of the bad PR and bad press, that the board has not chosen to extend beyond his 1 year contract. That's up in just a few months, and they said it's kind of unheard of that at this point the board wouldn't be considering that and almost call it a guarantee if they really thought that it was in good hands.
Yeah, they said most boards renew your contract well before a year if they want to keep you on as CEO.
And so I think it's questioning too is this kind of one of those things where he almost is kind of cleaning house in the way he thinks is best before he has his swan song, and they say bye, see you later. Then maybe they bring Peter Rice back, or is it one of those where they say, if something starts to turn course here in the next few months, they say, all right, well, we'll let him take another stab.
They never should have got rid of John Lasseter.
Yeah. Now that I 100% agree with. Absolutely. Jacob, what about you? How do you feel about this?
I'm a far outsider here in Kentucky compared to the world of Disney. This is more personal experience. I feel like when there's a new management, I feel like there's an overcourse of correction, maybe not so much in terms of outlook and goal. That I don't know much. I know nothing about Bob Chapek, so I can't say what he came in with, what his vision was, or where he wanted to take it. But in terms of my experience, when there is some sort of new member of management, they come in heavy-handed, and they want to say, this is how it's going to be. This is the new thing. This is what they did. This is how it's, this is my new thing. So I don't know if, could have been a butted heads personality dispute between him and Rice. As Sean said, something that we don't know yet that may come to light. But I feel like it's just one of those things where it's this person's doing things differently than what I want to take it into. So he's going to be my example for everyone else. And then the article cites, everyone's like, am I next?
Right.
How's this going to?
Because everybody's
the dominoes fall.
Thinking they're on thin ice.
Mm-hmm.
If that hammer comes down on me next, it's like I'm out.
Yeah.
And is this going to be the way the dominoes fall? And then it's like, is it going to be one right after the other? And I do want to talk about the controversy of course, the Lightyear ban in the 14 countries. Because it's obviously a major headline in the fact that it's no surprise that you have Middle Eastern countries who are outwardly very much strict about having certain kinds of content in their films, and homosexuality is definitely not something that they will allow. So it doesn't come as any surprise, I think, to most people who know the culture of those countries that Lightyear is banned. However, we've seen in the past, very recently, not long ago, that very many movies, a lot of films and a lot of studios will outwardly cut out certain scenes and dilute certain things
just
so they'll release in other countries to be successful. Definitely when it comes to China, it's such a huge market. We know that without a doubt. Something this was pretty far back, but the controversy with Top Gun, first and foremost, recently with the Taiwanese flag, but even far back as Red Dawn, the remake of Red Dawn, just several years ago, from being China to being North Korea. So
because,
it's like
North Korea's coming to invade us.
Yeah, it's completely realistic. Yeah, but what are your all's thoughts, I guess, on the ban of Lightyear, and is this gonna be a huge, a huge hit to their bottom line for this movie and the success, or is it going to supersede that and it's going to continue to go on?
I think it's still
like
going to
most Pixar films.
It's still going to make money. Obviously, a little bit less since it doesn't have China, which is huge. And I will say this for
is
them.
it? Hold on, wait.
China hadn't answered yet.
China's still on the out.
They
have
Middle Eastern.
I doubt it'll show in China.
Well, no. But
here's
the thing: do you think it hasn't answered because they may be holding out and waiting for Disney if they're gonna
edit it?
I don't think they will, since they've already. So if they do, because that's what I was gonna say. I will give them this. In the past, we always made fun of them for altering movies to release in other countries, because it's like, if you really stand by this idea or this belief, then you wouldn't change it. So I will give them this, in that they are saying so far that no, because the quote, which is I think funny, we're not going to cut out anything. This is from Galen Sussman, who is a producer. We're not going to cut out anything, especially something as important as the loving and inspirational relationship that shows Buzz what he's missing by the choices that he's making. So that's not getting cut. So he's pretty definite here that they are not going to change anything. So it would be pretty funny if they walked it back. It's like, so what is more important to you? The stance you're trying to make or money?
Right.
Because in the past, like with Mulan, people criticized them for filming in China where they had Muslim concentration camps.
I would like to know when this decision was made to refuse to
alter movies.
To alter movies.
I think they should never alter.
Well, no. I mean, in this particular movie, because I think it's kind of suspect with the timing of Top Gun, because you have Top Gun coming out and people are praising it for standing with Japan and Taiwan and not removing those flags to kowtow to China. But then now you have Disney that's like, oh, well, we're not going to alter ours to kowtow to any of these countries either. When that is something that I feel like in the past they absolutely have done.
Well,
it's like, are you trying to ride the coattails
going back to Florida?
Maverick?
I think they've gotten so much because they don't know what to do now. You got one side that hates it for this, but then they get bashed because they didn't oppose the Don't Say Gay bill. So now they're like, well, we don't want to offend those people, so we can't cut things from this movie now.
They are clearly taking the gamble and rolling the dice and hoping that with them, they can leave this content intact and they will have the support on the back end of people going and rushing to the theaters to support this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Knowing that ultimately that really where it's going to come down to what are the box office numbers. And if it truly hurts, then the real question is, then do they pivot?
Yeah.
Do they pivot after they see that it does a terrible job at the box office, or it doesn't do nearly as well, or that maybe some parents who haven't been keeping up in the headlines, they go to see it, they get mad and they get pissed off, they write Disney, or they go ranting and raving to Disney, and then the next thing you know, Disney's back in the position they were in with Florida.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh crap, now we're staring down the bottom, the barrel of a gun, and we're pissing off the very base of what is at the Disney culture, which is families. And if we do that, at the end of the day, what are we really here for? Are we here to, yes, stand up for our principles, like you said, and stick a fist up to, yes, this is what our right is, and we're going to fight for these rights? Or are we a business, and we realize that we've completely done a 180 on what our values are, and now people are calling us out on that, and we're going to either go completely in that direction and abandon those values and go for these new woke ideological values that seem to be here and now in the present popular for the day, or we're actually going to turn about face and say, okay, we now understand. We're going to go back to good old safe Disney, Well, especially now.
Yeah.
Especially with what even this woman is saying here, one of the producers, and even Chris Evans, of course, who voices Lightyear, and we know, where he falls in the political spectrum in Hollywood, but it's like they're very blatantly saying how they feel about this film and how they support it and why they support it. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, it's like you said, can they dig out themselves out of this hole?
To walk it back is to admit that you were wrong. Or to admit at least that you didn't really believe in it fully to begin with, because if you're believing the dollar more than you believe in these ideals, then that's once you've gone down that hole, I don't feel like you can come back up.
But here's the thing: is that a bad thing? I mean, because at the end of the day,
it's not a bad thing at this point, because I'd love to see Disney tank, but that's just me. I would love to see them eat all of this until they're so full that they burst. And I think that it's coming. The funny thing is like I mentioned before, there's a lot of things transpiring where I feel like the spiral is getting a lot faster than I anticipate. I was thinking decades. I think it's going to be within the next 5 years that we see Disney bottom out. I just don't think
that's a bold prediction.
I just don't think Disney's gonna. I don't think they're gonna recover from all of this. And I'm telling you right now, if there is a political wave that comes in the next 2 and 4 years, I think Disney's going to be done because.
Well, I don't think they're going to ever go out of business.
No, not out of business. Yeah. They are not going to be the most profitable production company or film company or whatever like they are now. I think they're going to fall apart. Their stock is tanking. Everything is tanking.
Everybody's stock is tanking.
Yeah.
Well,
I know that. I know. But you can't blame this on Russia.
No. You can't blame
fault.
it on inflation. You can't blame it on the economy.
This is their fault.
Yeah. Well, I do think, to me, the biggest awakening will be when they do an about face. Not because, again, they're abandoning quote-unquote values. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, but what was the company's original values to begin with, for one? And two, at the end of the day, what are you in business for? And why does your business somehow align with this ideological presence in this moment here and now? Why is this something that now seems to somehow become your striving fight for the day? It wasn't but 2 months ago that we just heard the leaked conference call with the woman in Disney who was talking about how her job was she was going to make sure that she could find any way, shape, or form to put something queer into a Disney project. And it's like, why is there someone working at Disney where that's your motivation?
Yeah.
Never mind, it's like, okay, if you're queer, you're gay, or LGBT, whatever, and you work at Disney, so be it. But why is it that you have this agenda as your utmost responsibility that you're putting forth at Disney, a company where that's not even what should be celebrated? That's not even what the main purpose of the company existing is. Yeah. And so to me, it's like, I feel like any kind of backsliding would bring them back to reality, to the point of saying, okay, we've strayed too far from what our purpose is, which is just to make family-friendly content that anybody can enjoy no matter your background. And it doesn't have to appeal to any kind of ideological, it's universal values. I mean, if you watch any Pixar film, literally, prior to the last 5 years, you will see universal values carried out that speak to everyone of every background, of every creed. Yep. And it just seems ridiculous that they strayed so far from that.
In the beginning of Disney, even though it was a film business, show business, it was a content creator, there were a lot of religious people working with Disney. And there was a lot of push for a lot of the stuff that they created, the shows and things, to be like Christian family values. And they actually made sure that wasn't something that they forced on everybody, because they wanted not just, Christian households to enjoy it. They wanted everybody to get to enjoy it. And it's like, if we're not going to force, if it's so terrible to force those ideals on people through our content, then what makes you think it's okay to force these ideals? It shouldn't be a matter. You've said it before. As soon as a company goes political in one way or the other, that's their downfall. And I really feel like this is Disney's. It's not going to ever be the same Disney again.
No. Well, Walt Disney was a bigot, so we're not supposed to go off his ideals.
Sure.
Yeah. Now the people that run Disney know better, and they're going to take it in the right direction.
I do love how all of these corporations, at one way or another, get taken over. But it's like it's never the other way around.
The founder, because it's
well,
like
no,
you can say Walt's a bigot all you want,
that,
but he created something amazing.
But that's what I'm saying. It's funny how it's like they never go and just create something out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They have to take over something that's already successful and then say, now we're going to shape it into our mode of thinking.
Now we're going to make it better
Apple.
because we know better. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Tim Cook took what Steve Jobs created, and now it's rainbows. I mean, really. Apple they haven't innovated. They haven't done anything major. I mean, they really haven't, but they have pushed an agenda, and they've done it very well. I can't go through my Apple Watch without seeing rainbows on something. Like, I mean, it's integrated into everything they create.
I like rainbows.
And it's just like, they're forcing the ideals and losing sight of the ideas. And that's what all of these big companies are doing. I think eventually Apple's going to see the same fate. They're not the same Apple that they were, and I don't think they ever will be again. They've lost it.
And to go to your point about not forcing certain ideas, I agree. Like, a company should focus on, Apple should focus on innovating and making the best possible product possible. Disney should focus on making the best possible forms of entertainment possible. And that means, be neutral. You don't have to force, like you said, far-right ideals or Christian ideals or anything down people's throats the same way you don't need to force far-left ideals or anything down people's throats. Tell, like Brandon said, universal stories that connect to everybody. That was one thing I loved about like Marvel Comics, and we look at where Marvel is now. Mm-hmm. X-Men is a perfect representation of racism, bigotry, but it's on a macro level. They don't get into, they don't specifically say, this person represents an LGBTQ character, this person represents African Americans. They are a blanket representation of evil and how people treat others that are different and how we shouldn't do that. And it is a universal message that if you're Jewish, if you're gay, if you're anything, you can relate to it because it's universal. And it doesn't have to be this pinpointed, beat you over the head until you're sick of hearing it.
Okay,
I love that.
Before, yeah, no, I agree.
X-Men, I never made that connection, and even the X-Men are going woke. With the, I mean, well, not the X-Men.
I think
but
anytime
the Marvel and all that crap.
But anytime you have that, anytime you compartmentalize and you break your representation down into those very deliberate boxes of identity. It's like, I'm sorry, but identity politics, I think, is evil and inherent because it doesn't focus on the idea of your individual, personality and your own individualism that comes out and is unique for everybody. That everybody was told when they were younger, at least, when we were growing up, that it's like, you're special. There's only one of you. And it's like, find out what that is.
That Barney song.
That's special. Everybody's special. But I mean, I don't want to go on too long. I do want to move on to our next headline, but real quick, we didn't really talk to Jacob at all that whole segment. I'm sorry. Do you have anything to say?
I don't.
We demagogued it. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I don't. And you all know this. I keep up with like politics, but I personally don't care what one person thinks or believes, because my personal opinion on it is a person believes whatever they do for their own reasons. And so that, I'm kind of laissez-faire in that sense. But so what Disney does or doesn't do, for me, doesn't affect me. I'm not going to watch or not watch it if they keep or change Lightyear for whatever reasons, monetary or woke or anti-woke, if there is a term for anti-woke. So
normal.
I don't know.
Wow. No, sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. Asleep, maybe, I don't know. So my question. So that doesn't bother me. But I will say, I did. The one thing Keith quoted the Sussman quote there, and it ended with the punctuation of, so that's not getting cut. So whether you agree or disagree with it, that's a personal thing. But at least as it stands now, I'm glad that they're keeping it as they made it originally. Why they made it how they did is always, I guess,
up for debate
or opinion or whatever. But it can be said for like on the opposite side of Fox or the Daily Wire or whatever wants to do Ben Shapiro. They have their opinion, they keep it, they do it, and they're unapologetic about it, and that's totally fine. I actually like that, in the sense that they have the opinion, they say it, and they don't
stick by
waver.
what you say. If you say it, stick by it, and I agree with that.
Yeah. So if they say they're going to keep it as they are, money be damned in China or Saudi Arabia or whatever, rock on.
Kuwait. I can respect it. I'm just not going to go see it.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
that's that's the thing. But it's funny because it's like I would agree. I completely agree. It's like I'm fine that they found this new age boldness to say we're going to stand on these principles. I just wish they would have
really, because like you said, we'll see.
Well, right, we will see because time will tell. And I think it's funny because it's like they may do so on this film, and we'll see if they eat crow and if it's successful or not. I'm sure there will be tons of proponents who want to go out there and support it specifically because Disney's doing this. Yeah. The question will be in the long term of whether or not they continue this path forward. And I think I would agree with you, Jacob, on the point of, I'm all for to me, that's the beauty of competition is that you have
free market.
You have the ability to go out there and create something that is unique enough that other people will come and support you. I think the problem is that when people are disingenuous or disguise certain perspectives or ideologies within certain characterizations that they're not forthright about, or they don't disclose in a genuine way, that it almost kind of manipulates or deceives people. And honestly, I wouldn't just blame that on any kind of corporation that may be trying to do that. I would also blame that partly on the individual who doesn't take up their own, sense of I need to pursue my own identity and I need to figure this out, right or wrong, for myself, and question these things for myself. And partly I think that's where all of us in this room, whether we agree or disagree on any given number of issues, we'll constantly test and sharpen each other's skills in terms of why we agree or disagree with that out of love. And I think that's the difference between us amongst, talking about some of these bigger pressing issues when you're talking about a corporation and when you're talking about on a social cultural level where you have to be kind of ambiguous or abstract because you are talking about something that is, I think, going to affect future generations or the indoctrination thereof of certain people who are going to be exposed to certain content. And I think it's best to at least be honest about what that content is and why it's being made. And that's my only hope is that these things continue to be, looked at and considered when approaching these films so that people don't blindly just walk into the theater and they see something and they think, oh, wow, that was not at all. Just like Jurassic World. I wasn't expecting that turd that we got.
Yeah.
But, I was able to walk out of there and thankfully say, well, that's, 2.5 hours of my life I'll never get back. But thankfully I've been there, done that. Okay, I'm moving on. And I won't give them any more of my money.
I think at the end of the day, and unfortunately it is the business model of businesses these days, in many respects it's something on paper, but I think the bottom dollar is truly the bottom dollar. And if they feel like, for them to be successful, it doesn't have to make $1 more than what they put into it. It's just they have to make a percentage over on top. And if 14 countries, 15 if China, and others that may back out or something, then I think they will cow and change and, to then hit that threshold.
And if they
for
do,
them, that's a marketable movie.
And if they do, then all the respect that we have for them standing on their morals goes out the window.
But to me, and that's where I would disagree. And the only reason I would disagree is because for me, the respect would go back to, well, this is what you should have stuck with in the first place. Because I think this is what the problem, and honestly, I know this is getting off the beaten track, and this I'll be the final thing I say. I go back to when I was in college, and the shoe company Tom's came out, and the whole crusade about it was buy a pair and give a pair to a kid in need, and it was this great social push, this social message. But it's like at the end of the day, regardless of how good you felt
because you felt like you were supplying a pair of shoes to a kid in need, you're paying a company money to stay in business to do that philanthropic work, but also to receive a product.
Yeah.
Mainly so that you can feel good about yourself. Now, is there any huge evil, great evil in that, in terms of like feeling good to throw some money and do a little bit of good on? No, there's
paying
not.
For Nike, where they enslave kids to make their shoes.
That's very true.
They don't give them shoes.
Yeah, they're like, here, make our shoes. So I'm like,
I don't even give them Air Jordans. Come on.
In that regard, I would just say I'd rather give to the company I know is going to do something good with.
But
my money.
my point is that the start of that company, I think, started this huge wave in our generation and our culture. This idea, and I get it. I think it goes to a greater thirst of identity that we are struggling with in our culture, of wanting to do something that is good. And I think it's a greater spiritual battle at the heart of what's going on culturally, because I think so many people want to get behind some kind of good cause, and they're looking for it in terms of what we have for the longest time, and what we grew up with is as looking at these corporations and demonizing them, saying they have all this money, they have all this power, they're the ones that are in control. And the corporations, rightfully so, have twisted that around and said, no, we're not the bad guys. We want to support these causes. And so they're going to sway whichever way the cultural pendulum swings. And at the end of the day, they're still their business. They're amoral. They're going to go where the money goes. And for me, the best way that this can all come crashing down is if a company like Apple or Disney, some major corporation, has such a huge flop in going one specific direction that they cut it all out and they say, we're done with social causes. We're done with doing this, that, and the other for this specific group or cheering on this political person. We're going to go to making content. Because at the end of the day, the magic of what Disney was and what Walt set out to do was create something magical for every family and adult and little child out there to go and experience, that was something new and enjoyable that you didn't get anywhere else. And that, to me, is the ultimate purpose, and it has nothing to do with any political cause.
I agree. I think we live in a time where it's we live in one of the most prosperous countries at the most prosperous time in history that you could be alive. I mean, we have it way better off right now than anybody that lived before us. Yes, there's problems, but not like the problems people in the past had to face. And I think people are, like you said, it's a spiritual crisis where people are aimless. They don't know what to do, and they're bored. They live in a prosperous time, and now they're having to make up causes just to feel better about themselves, when really it's an internal thing. And they're like, well, how do I feel better? I'm going to help these people instead of looking at what I can do to better myself. So, but there you have it.
Okay, all right. I think we can finally move on. Sorry, just wanted to get that off my chest. Let's talk about it. I put it in the main headline of the show. I called it the title of the show. We got to talk about it. Miss Lady Gaga could be possibly playing Harley Quinn in Joker 2.
Fallait la deux.
I like that. Fallait la deux.
It's a
What's
clinical
I'm gonna
term.
drop
It's
later?
it's French for folly for two or madness of two. It's a clinical term, like when people share the same psychosis, or like a psychosis spreads from one person. So like, say I imagine bunnies, and then all of a sudden Sean starts imagining seeing bunnies, then it would be fallait la deux, because it's a psychosis we both share.
Yeah.
Can we call it Harvey
I mean,
too?
you said it, so now I am thinking about bunnies.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I thought
Inception.
when the name came out, because it's also I forget the name of the band. It's an album, but it was funny when I saw it, and then someone mentioned that it was a clinical term for that, and I was like, oh, are they bringing in Harley Quinn? Because I mean, it made sense with like Madness for two, and then of course now it's Lady Gaga, and I'm like, possibly
Not just that.
Yes, this is the part that's really
cool,
interesting.
The weird part that I'm actually excited about.
It's going to be a musical. Yeah,
That's
according to Todd Phillips. I think Lady Gaga would make a good Harley Quinn, so I'm fine with that.
The reason why I was okay with this is, for one, again, they've distorted the DC universe every which
it's all
way or
over
the
the
other.
place, yeah.
So they've already said this Joker has nothing to do with the other Jokers
it's
we've seen.
own universe. It takes place where it has nothing to do with any other movies.
So now they have multiverses without ever setting it up, which is fine.
Well, that's coming in the Flashpoint. No, that's how Michael Keaton
Michael
and everything.
Keaton's coming back.
Because that's what the Flashpoint storyline is the multiverse.
Well, I knew that. I was kind of tongue in cheek poking at Ezra Miller and the controversy that he's.
Yeah, we don't know. Now he's apparently kidnapped some girl. So
I'm telling you,
she ran off with him. It's not, but she is 18, and her parents are still her legal guardian.
He likes girls.
So, Well, she identifies as they, them, so...
So maybe not. Okay.
He likes they, them.
It's a whole weird thing
I
because
didn't
they're
think he
saying he
played for that
kidnapped
team.
her. She's saying she went with him freely. It's a whole mess. It's just a whole mess, yeah.
Either way... Oh, wait, go ahead, Jake.
I had a logical thing. I said, would he have kidnapped them then?
So he's kidnapped more than one.
That's 2 counts at least. So.
They, them, them.
Yeah.
They're saying...
Here now than yet.
The parents are saying he's taking her and is grooming her, and they're saying she's with him, or it's him and her saying she's with him of their own free will. But it's all.
I didn't mean to turn this on to Ezra Miller.
It's a nut job. It
Stockholm
is.
syndrome.
It's like
It's
I
weird.
can't wrap my mind around
The whole thing's weird. It is. It's just weird.
It's freaking Hollywood.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey's on trial in the UK now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I
Yeah.
just tell you, Hollywood's freaking
Yeah.
nuts. They're nuts.
But yeah, musical Joker sequel. Weird.
Are y'all genuinely looking forward though to a Lady Gaga
Here's the
Harley
thing.
Quinn?
When
Would
they
that be
announced-
good?
Do it, yeah.
You think so?
I didn't think that. Oh yeah, I didn't think Joker needed a sequel. But then when they kept talking about it, and I was like, he doesn't need one. Then it was official, and I was like, that's fine. The first one was good. It surprised me, so I would check out a sequel. But then when he said it's going to be a musical, I was like, well, now I'm really interested because that's just batshit crazy, and I want to see.
Yeah,
what's
exactly.
I mean, so I'm like,
Yeah.
But if the Joker's crazy, so maybe it fits. We'll see.
And I'll be the first to admit, and I think we all thought this back, even when we found out Joaquin Phoenix was going to be the
Yeah.
Joker.
And he nailed it.
But no, even before that, we have episodes on record.
Oh, yeah.
Where we were trashing it, thinking it was going to be awful.
Yeah.
And we ate crow because that was a great movie. And he did a phenomenal job. Obviously won the Oscar that year for it.
Yeah.
And I thought the same thing when I heard the way they were going with this, and I'm like, you know what? I trust Todd Phillips at this point.
Yeah.
He's not pulling a Colin Trevorrow. I'm not, so far I'm in the boat.
He said if I'm going to make a sequel, I'm going to do something unique with it, and he's doing something unique with
It's
it.
definitely neat. But my thing is, like, I think Lady Gaga can pull it off. I have no doubt. I think she's, as they say in the sports world, somebody who doesn't play this sport, but they're athletic or whatever, they can pick up. They can jump from medium to medium.
She's proven
She's
herself.
artistic,
Yeah.
so I mean, I think she can jump from the vocal to the acting to all that. I have no issues with her in this. I think it's going to be fine. But my hesitation is with Joaquin Phoenix singing. I don't know, and this is where you all have far more superior knowledge than I do. I don't know. Is there anything in his repertoire and filmography or anything where he is?
If you go
anything
and
other
watch
than auditory vocals,
I'm Still Here, a mockumentary starring Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh yeah.
He does rap in that movie. Yes, so he's like Jack Harlow and oh gosh, what's his name? Post Malone.
Because my image with Joaquin Phoenix is very like nuanced. It's very he is in this niche kind of bubble that is him, and that's just hard to explain. So I question his ability to then break out and try anything, not try, but like execute some sort of song and dance routine of
and maybe he's not a good. I've seen plenty of musicals with lead actors that really couldn't. I mean, Russell Crowe, Les Mis. It was terrible. There are actors that they hire that just can't sing, and I don't know why you hire these actors for a musical. But
because I feel like a musical is such a specialized piece.
I think everybody should just hire Hugh Jackman for all
I mean, because like
I think they should. I mean, Christian Bell nailed Newsies.
So I think there's a special actor that can do this, but I don't think. I think he was. I never saw the other Joker that he was in. I've heard fantastic things.
Well, it wasn't a musical.
Well, I do know. But I think he nailed it from what I saw and everything. But I don't think this is the medium for him to keep this.
I think that's
going.
what makes it more
I
interesting.
Never thought Bradley Cooper would have been in a musical either.
True, but he can sing too. Yeah.
Well, and I will say, I think any actor, especially someone who's achieved what Joaquin Phoenix has achieved already in his career, would be looking for that next challenge.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I would count him out, only because I do think him. When I joke around about Christian Bale or a Bradley Cooper or even a Leonardo DiCaprio, I think these are characters. I mean, the only one that I think is that famous that really wouldn't, who just does a great job playing himself, but I freaking love him and everything he does, is Brad Pitt. He's literally. I mean, Bullet Train's coming out. I'm looking forward to it.
Good.
Brad Pitt's Brad Pitt. It's just like
that's like George Clooney. I think George Clooney's
very
super
true.
entertaining because he just plays. He's like he knows that he's like awesome and like he's like who wants to come out and have a drink with George Clooney? Come on. I mean he's entertaining.
But I do think Joaquin Phoenix errs on that side of being an artois. He's kind of like what I think Jared Leto wants to be.
Yes.
And what too many people gave him credit for because of Dallas Buyers Club, but actually has the skill to back it up. And I think with something as monumental as Joker that put him back on the scene of being taken seriously and shown for the craft that he can do, I think the dude's a wacko, but I do think he's I think he'll do well.
Would you going to be playing a wacko in an asylum?
Exactly.
So,
he fits the role.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say, would you prefer it if they made a musical Joker movie with Jared Leto's Joker?
Jared Leto can sing.
Because he could sing.
I would have been fine as long as Margot Robbie's in it, because I would watch her do anything.
He was a singer before he was an he was a singer before he was an actor. So let Jared Leto do it.
Yeah.
Well, you want to move on to the next topic?
We're done. Let's move on. We're gonna actually move on.
Philip Baker died. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
I've seen him in others. I mean, I don't know his work that well, but
I mean, that's fine. I included it in the headlines. I didn't want to bring it up.
I just wanted to say it because I thought he was significant enough to say it, but I don't know his work that well. So
he was a good character actor. His big role that
I remember him from Boogie Nights.
Yep, he was also in an episode of Seinfeld where he played the iconic librarian that came back and wanted his book back.
I was never a huge Seinfeld fan, so I can't really.
No, I tried to get into it. I'm slowly making my way through the series on Netflix.
I've tried a few times, and it's not that I think it's bad. It's not me. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on then to our multimedia segment. Let's do it.
Multimedia.
Multimedia.
There it is.
Hey,
talking about video games.
That's it. Yeah,
that's right. If you're bored with all the movie talk, we got a good one coming up.
We sure, I guess we do.
All right, a lot of industries. Well, not industries. A lot of studios in the gaming industry have done their fair share of previews for the summer. Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo.
I didn't even know any of that happened.
You didn't?
No.
Wow. Sony's was last week, I believe.
Sean didn't know either. Yeah.
Or
the
2
only
weeks
stuff
ago.
I know is the stuff you sent me.
The links you sent was the only thing because I didn't know they were doing any major events like that. Yeah.
Well, basically E3
shows you how much I keep up with gaming now.
E3 has been abandoned.
Oh yeah. No, I did know that
for pretty much the last several years.
Yeah.
And so now all of them kind of do
their own show. Yeah.
Well, they do like monthly or bi-monthly reports.
I knew
almost.
Sony had theirs. I will admit. Okay, I did know Sony had theirs because I have a PlayStation. Microsoft I don't really follow anymore because they haven't impressed me in a long time, and Nintendo I just kind of pick up here or there. So yeah.
But I will say that I am looking forward to some of the games that are coming out.
Well, tell us about them because I don't know.
Y'all were supposed to read up. I guess this will be a short-lived multimedia segment.
My notes updated when I got here.
My notes I didn't get updated till this morning, and I didn't see. I know you're gonna have to start to push it because they don't update until like.
I do no. We discuss this on the show every single week. If you open the app and refresh it, it will refresh.
I did that multiple times.
Terrible with Apple. Terrible about Apple. But it's the only. I mean, I update them the night before. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
You need to do it 2 nights before.
Last night.
Last night it was probably just before I went to bed, 8:00.
Oh.
So I mean, you got all day. You got 24 hours to do it.
Well, I work every day, so I can't.
I do too.
I can't get my phone out.
I gotta pull up.
But you already saw the articles before today.
Well, I have to get them together, and most of the articles, truth be told, are ones you all send me.
I want more than 24 hours notice.
Oh my god!
Well, I don't need that much.
Well,
for
the show's over because nobody wants to talk about this
multimedia
segment.
Some of the games you sent.
Now,
some of the games, the links you sent did intrigue me.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Nobody's excited. We're done.
I'm not excited for Final Fantasy.
Street Fighter
like-
6.
I'm sorry. Street Fighter, I
don't
have
care
seen a
about-
trailer
yeah.
for that.
We're done.
Street Fighter
We're
looks
done.
good.
No,
Let's-
I don't.
we're done.
No, we don't have to be done.
No, yeah, we're
No.
done.
I do wanna
don't-
talk about
No,
it.
we don't want to talk about it.
Can you
Let's-
save the segment?
I do
and
wanna
say
talk
which
about it.
system you like best?
There you go.
How
I
about
like
that?
I like Jacob's idea.
Because I am, full disclosure,
I'm still going to talk about these
I-
games.
I am too.
I only
looking
own
it up.
a MacBook Pro, so I don't have the watch or the phone, so I don't have the notes or whatever capabilities, and it didn't work on my Fitbit. So I have no idea about the refreshing thing. I just saw the email you sent me. It just said
Nice.
Multimedia Segment, Apple, Sony Games, thoughts, ? Or something. I'm like, yes.
Jacob's like, that's all I need to know.
No, I will say the one I am actually excited because I like Final Fantasy. I'll check it out, but it's not one I'm going to run to. I'm like, let's see how it does first because some of them are lackluster. But the Resident Evil 4 remake, I actually am very intrigued with because I do love that is one of the best Resident Evil games, and I do love the franchise. So I would definitely check that out because 2 and 3 were like the remakes for those were amazing. So if they can do something as amazing as 2 and 3 with 4, but not change it too much because those really needed an update. 4, I don't feel like needs a huge update, maybe some tweaking because I mean it was really well done when it came out. So that makes me nervous on how much they might change because I don't want them to change too much, but I am excited about it.
Same. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to obviously Final Fantasy. I'm probably the only one that actually
No, I mean
plays
I
those.
do look forward to Final Fantasy.
Here's
It's
the
just
thing.
one of those that I have to be like,
Right.
is it going to be good?
Well, and I'll be the first one that, as a fan of that series that has grown up with them and played several of them, definitely, I played, honestly, probably 10, 15 hours, which is a good chunk of time in 15, and I just couldn't get past, it just wasn't, it didn't feel like Final Fantasy to me. It felt like a Final Fantasy game shoehorned into an open world, and it wasn't done right. This one looks a little bit better. I'm still skeptical because I just don't think they've been as unique and creative as I think FF7 through FF10. That was kind of the golden era. 12 gets loved a lot, but again, that was another one I've tried, and I'm about 20 hours in, and I still just always find myself going away from it, not playing. A lot of games got somewhat pushed back. God of War Ragnarok
I knew that
is
one,
getting possibly delayed to later in the year.
They are doing. Go ahead. I was just
No.
gonna say another one I actually do know about. See, I actually know more than I thought I did. Is the Last of Us remake? I didn't see that, and I thought that was interesting. Yeah, part 1. It is funny that everybody was anticipating a PS5 version of Last of Us Part 2, and we're still not getting that, but they're remaking part 1. But I mean, it's fair. That one's older. You already
I
have the
think we're
PS4.
actually, oddly enough, I think it came out in 2013. It might have been 2012. No, I think it was 2013 when that came out. So I think we're approaching the 10-year mark of Last of Us, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It does not feel like that came out 10 years ago.
Did Nintendo have anything interesting that they showed off?
Nintendo, it's so weird.
I'm just waiting for more news.
Breath
on,
of the Wild 2.
That's what I'm saying. I'm waiting for more news on that. They've not really given off a lot of news for that, and I am excited for that.
Theirs are hit and miss. Those are the ones I don't really follow because I don't own a Switch, and they do their Nintendo Directs, which are usually on the Nintendo Network.
And I will say, I mean,
I can't watch them.
They showed the new Pokemon.
Yeah, I did know about that. But
I mean, they announced that before.
Yeah,
their
a
conference.
lot of
Their
them they've
trailers-
announced.
The trailer's been out for a long time.
Years ahead of time.
But Microsoft, they actually had a huge reveal with regard to, because Bethesda's big, huge, since that buyout, it's like, what have you done for me lately? Starfield got a reveal.
Yeah, and I do want to
Starfield
play that. I do.
And I was going to say, it being a huge, massive exclusive for Sony or for Microsoft.
That's a Destiny, though. That's like one of them games they've been talking about for 10 freaking years, and it's maybe finally coming out.
The difference is,
do you think it's going to live up to the hype?
I think Bethesda has a better chance of it living up to the hype than Bungie did for Destiny.
Yeah,
okay.
And I'm not saying that Bungie didn't do that with Destiny. I never got into Destiny the way that I thought it was being hyped to get into. I did early on, but it became very lackluster and very repetitive.
Starfield, though, at least is. I mean, it's at least it's not kind of like it's not an MMO like Destiny, right? I thought it was more like
that.
I'm
not too sure of.
I thought it was more like
Starfield
Elder
is-
Scrolls.
It's all online, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like Elder Scrolls Online. Gotcha.
I think
Only
so.
in space.
I'm pretty sure Starfield is like all online.
Well, now I'm less interested. So, but that's okay. I don't get into the like Destiny. I liked, but sometimes when they're all online, like I feel like story elements take a dive. Like they're not as fleshed out as like even Skyrim. Like all the things you could get into was so fascinating, and I love
Agreed.
that. And I kind of like when they have that attention to detail. And I feel like that's one thing Bungie lacks with something like Destiny is like they've gotten much better about it now. I know they're being praised for it now that I no longer play. But it's just one of those things where it's kind of the same thing, just in the new skin at some point with Destiny. And I don't really want that coming from Bethesda.
Well, last thing I want to mention on this topic, just because we are all Sony, apart from Jacob, he's got his MacBook Pro, and he is over there playing tons of Flappy Bird. I don't even think that game works anymore.
No.
On the
they have copies now.
okay.
Yeah. So
it's some
knockoffs.
Yeah, knockoffs. But we all did subscribe to what dropped yesterday, which was PlayStation Plus, the new version of PlayStation
Now that
Plus,
I could talk about.
which has a Essentials tier, the extra tier in the middle, and the premium tier.
Yeah.
Now we could talk about our experiences with that. Anybody can go look up the info on what the difference is between the tiers. We all opted to, for one, go into the premium tier, but part of that was specifically because they at least are doing something smart at Sony right off the bat with the new PlayStation Plus, and that is they're prorating your entry rate based on when you normally subscribe. If you have an annual subscription, based on what time of the year that annual subscription lapses is how much money you pay up front today. I only had to pay $18 to get into premium because my subscription lapses in September.
Yeah.
So that's when I'll be charged the then yearly price, if I choose to keep premium, of $120.
Yeah.
Now, the service, I will say right now, with the lackluster classic games, which are PlayStation 1 era games, does not seem to be worthwhile for the premium version.
For $120, yeah.
For not $120.
I would agree. For me, because mine just renewed in February, so it was $35 for the premium subscription, and that's good until February 2023. And I'm like, I was like, I'll pay $35, and that gives me almost a whole year to see if they get any better or not. And if they don't, then I'll drop down to not Essentials, Extra. Thank you. But yeah, because right now, I will say, I mean, there was some nervousness regarding like what version of the games we're getting because Asia got the PAL versions that were terrible, but North America did get the 60 hertz NTSC, yeah. And it seems like they're trying, so that's why I'm kind of waiting. I'm like, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt for right now. Everybody has their hiccups starting out. If they add great games each month, if they work on this PS3 streaming issues, because right now you can only play PS3 games by streaming them. You can't download and play them natively like you can the PS1, PS2, and PSP games due to the PS3's hardware. If they can fix that, because streaming's not an ideal way to play those games, then yeah, I think it's a service definitely worth having.
Yeah, my experience streaming just a couple of games was not. It was where it made the decision for me real quick that I'll be stepping down to Extra unless they fix that, because it's not worth the classic games streaming or not.
Is there any classic
streaming
game that would
There's nothing
seal
on
the
there
deal?
that I would play.
I mean, is there one though that you would pick that if they added it, you would definitely say it's worthwhile?
Well,
of the classic titles, meaning like the streaming is definitely not something you can get over.
Yeah.
But the only other thing I think,
because
streaming
the classic is PS1, 2, and PSP.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not just PS1.
Right.
That's also the PS2 games. So, I mean, the thing is like a lot of the really good PS2 games that I want were remade.
Yes.
And like Shadow of Colossus, that was remade.
Now that one's available actually.
Yeah, but the HD is available.
Right.
So that was the remade one. That's
right.
not the original. Like, I mean, so I got to stream that because Shadow of Colossus HD
no,
was
the PS4 version's available.
Oh,
yeah,
the PS4 version's
is. That
available? Okay,
one is,
I didn't check that. So the majority of the titles that I would play, I already own. I've already paid for them. So it's like I'm not really gaining anything other than I did get to download Returnal, which is a $70 game, and Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a $70
Guardians
game.
of the Galaxy and
so
Ghost
it's
of
like,
Tsushima.
Yeah, I'm getting those. I already had Ghost of Tsushima. I already had Assassin's Creed. and Death Stranding. So it's like all these top tier games. I've already purchased them, so I'm not really gaining a lot.
Yeah.
Now in the future, I'll stop buying games if they're going to be on there.
Yeah.
So, but the streaming was absolutely terrible. And I have a gigabit internet. They can't blame it on me.
Right. No, I agree.
I did the connection test. I was getting 700 something megabytes to my PS5.
Yep.
And so it's not the internet. It's just their crappy streaming.
I told Brandon, like, I've streamed games from the PS5 to my iPad. Like, I was in Florida and did that.
Yeah.
And it looked better and worked better than the PS3 streaming on the PS5.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, if you could stream the PS5 from my house in Louisville to Florida and I can play Demon's Souls, it's a little janky.
On your iPad.
On my iPad.
Yeah.
But I mean,
two completely different devices.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can't stream the PS3 game or even emulate them.
On your
They're-
multi-million-dollar
you
server
tell me
hub. I mean, come on.
You cannot tell me
Yeah.
the PS5 is not powerful enough to emulate PS3. I just don't.
I
believe
agree.
it.
I think it's
believe it.
absolutely ridiculous that they don't have that.
On a different topic than the PlayStation Plus, I noticed that most of the games that were announced at Sony's event was PSVR 2. So
Yeah, yes, I
a
do.
lot of VR2 games coming out, but they haven't really given us a great glimpse at the device.
I think that's fun. I did read about that they had shown. I forget what game it was. They were highlighting that it was going to be in VR on VR2.
Resident Evil.
Yes,
They got Resident Evil,
but
also
they
got-
haven't
and-
announced the PSVR 2 yet. I mean, we know it's coming,
Right.
but they haven't showcased anything. But they're showcasing games for it. So it's just kind of
they
ridiculous.
showcased Horizons.
Yeah.
is going to have.
Oh yeah, it has a standalone VR experience.
I will say, Brandon mentioned, for me, like with the classics and PS Plus Premium, that would make it worth it are the games that weren't updated for HD that you can't get anywhere, like Metal Gear Solid 4, which is locked onto the PS3. It's not, you cannot play that game on anything but PS3.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm like, give us something like that has just been abandoned because you made the PS3 so proprietary that it couldn't be done anywhere else. It's like, give us the things that...
Well,
Imagine how bad that game would look.
The fact that there are also,
Yes.
and that's what I'm saying. You're talking about the game that utilized the hardware to its fullest potential.
Yeah.
It's going to look terrible being streamed, let alone games like God of War 2, that you have the PS2 classics or PS2 games originally that you could be able to download. But no, they lock you into the remasters, which are the preferable versions. But because the remasters were from PS2 to PS3,
Yep.
you then have to stream the
them.
PS3
Yeah.
version, which then makes it crappier.
Like if at some point they probably will, but if they add Vita games, because they've dropped support for the Vita. I told him Uncharted Golden Abyss, you can only play that on the Vita, and it actually was a decent game. I enjoyed it. I played it, but you can only play it on Vita, and it would be great if they had that on there that you could download and play. So, I mean, it's the games like that are good games that most people didn't play because they were on something like Vita or PS3 that people didn't have at the time. That those are the games that maybe people might want to check out because now they have full access to them.
Yeah.
But I do think that they were smart in doing the prorate. I think what they're doing, and I'd already discussed this with y'all earlier, I think Sony's plan is to see just how many people they get adopted early on to see what kind of drive and success.
adopt me.
Well, they may, Keith. I don't know many people that would.
Yeah, you're on thin ice.
But if they get a lot of subscribers up front, and then honestly, also if there's these subscribers who push back and really gripe about some of their complaints, I really do hope that Sony takes that feedback to heart and says, okay, these are our most beloved fans that want to subscribe to the highest tier for these experiences. We've got to give them what they want.
They really took it to heart with PlayStation Now. So how many years was that out? And people complained since the dawn of its existence, and they never fixed it.
Well, and then now with this upgrade to PS Plus, which is supposed to transition people away from that, and it's obsolete now. You can't use it.
Yep.
But then a lot of the games that were available to stream on there are no
Went
longer
away.
available.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that it's like I'm kind of screwed because I only have really 2 months. Because the way they're doing it is the essential tier gets their free bout of games, which is 3 games, one free PS5, one free PS4, and a PS. Or no, that's it. Just 2 free games.
They've been
now.
given 3, but it was 2 PS4 and a PS5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So those come out on the first Tuesday of every month,
Yeah.
and then the batch of new games that are for the PS Plus subscribers of the Essential and the
extra and
or
premium.
I'm sorry, the Extra and Premium tier, those come out in the middle of the month. And if they're only going to throw like 3 or 4 games on there in the rotation every month, that's not going to be worth it. And especially if they don't choose if they only do like, oh, here's one classic game, 2 PS3 games you can stream, and a PS4 game. No, that's not going to be good enough. I want a bundle of games.
There's only like 3 PSP games total on there right now. Yeah. So I'm just like, y'all really broke the bank with that one.
NGS Portable Ops? All right. That's it for this episode. We turned that segment around. We made it.
Yeah, we did.
We made it. We made it.
We know things about video games.
We know this gaming stuff. We just didn't watch it at Sony's presser at State of Play.
That's true.
We already knew it was coming, though.
Well, we keep
Callisto
up with
Protocol. I want that game.
That does look good.
I want that freaking game because that's gonna curb my appetite until Dead Space comes out.
I thought it looked surprisingly a lot like Dead Space, but it does look good. I agree.
Space.
I thought it was going to be like a Dead Space remake when I saw it.
Yeah.
I was like, this is eerily like that.
Yeah.
But it looked amazing. Alrighty, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. Right there at the bottom of your screen, we've got our social media. Like, share, subscribe, hit that bell icon for all our notifications. Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, Red Moon Picks, and search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube. Catch us live every single Tuesday night at 9 p.m. right here. We went a little long tonight. Thanks to our buddy Jacob. Glad to have you.
Don't blame it on him. He didn't talk very much.
He's like, I've been just sitting over here chilling.
It was more so, I think, since you won't be on air next week.
Thank you for reminding our viewers.
Yeah.
Yes, because that is true, Jacob. Would you like to tell them?
Jacob knows more than we do.
They will not be on next week. They're on location filming some sort of Sharknado 12 or something, I think. So
we've been hired by the Sci-Fi Channel. And trust me, it's got some weird scenes in it.
It'll still be better than Jurassic World Dominion.
I have no doubt. So they will not be on next week, but the week after, the 20-something, they will.
The 27th or 28th.
28th.
The last Tuesday in June. We are back.
Yes.
We're back live. We got a rerun next week. A great best of show, of course, as always. We always have a great show. But right there also at the bottom of your screen, you can always do that old-fashioned email,
Right
RMPodcast.
Is it right here?
Oh, hold on. Jacob's got it.
Oh, I don't have a...
Oh, no.
You're right there.
You're right there. You got to point it down lower. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh,
keep
man.
going. Whoa.
Oh,
keep going.
Keep pointing down there.
Keep going, right?
I think
keep going.
I think the show's rating has changed now.
Right there.
Oh, that did change at the beginning of the show.
You're tickling it. You are tickling it. RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
I like the way Jacob tickles it.
It's very beautiful. All right, guys. Until next time, I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and our special guest host,
Jacob Burris, I'm listening.
I forgot. That's it. Also,
It didn't do it.
you ain't got nothing.
I pushed a button and it didn't work.
Can't be normal.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.